News when you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Denise Pellegrini. We have multiple headlines coming in on Russia and Ukraine. Russia claiming it has taken back the Kursk region from Ukraine, according to Interfax, which says Russia is claiming it completed its effort to free the Kursk region from Ukrainian forces. Citing the Kremlin, Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov reporting to Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to this report, that Moscow's troops had finished their operations in the region which border Ukraine. And that is according to Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov to Russian media, according to Interfax. That claim not verified independently. A week ago, Gerasimov told Putin in a meeting Russia had recovered 99.5% of the previously occupied territory in Kursk. Earlier this morning, Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky, who is under pressure from President Trump to make concessions to get a peace agreement with Russia, did meet briefly with President Trump on the sidelines of the funeral of Pope Francis at the Vatican. The presidents met at St. Peter's Basilica for about 15 minutes and agreed to continue negotiations later today, according to a spokesperson for Ukraine's president. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung also confirmed the meeting and said they met privately today and had a very productive discussion. Trump yesterday claimed warring parties, Russia and Ukraine, were very close to a deal. As for the funeral of Pope Francis, the pontiff died Monday after suffering a stroke at the age of 88. Dozens of heads of state and other luminaries attending, also a group of the poor and the needy on the steps of St. Mary Major Basilica, paying homage to the first Jesuit and first Latin American pope before his burial in the church. From the beginning of his papacy in 2013, Francis won over many around the world, Catholic or not, with his advocacy for migrants and the environment. He sharply disagreed with President Trump's approach on issues including immigration, the treatment of migrants, and climate change. A massive explosion and fire has struck the Iranian port city of Bandar Abbas. A provincial disaster management official says the blast came from containers at a port in the city that handles container traffic and also has oil tankers and other petrochemical facilities. Separately, Iran and the U.S. began in-depth negotiations in Oman today over Tehran's rapidly advancing nuclear program, talks likely hinging on the Islamic Republic's enrichment of uranium. No details yet today from Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi or U.S. Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff. Virginia Giuffre, who accused Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew of sexual abuse, has died by suicide at her farm in Western Australia at the age of 41. Giuffre was a prominent victim of Epstein's abuse. She filed multiple lawsuits against him, Ghislaine Maxwell, and others, settling some cases and speaking out against her abusers. Giuffre's family says she lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking, and remembered her as heroic and having an incredible courage and loving spirit. Pakistani soldiers firing at Indian posts along the highly militarized frontier in disputed Kashmir for a second consecutive night, according to India's military, as tension continues to rise between the nuclear-armed rivals following a deadly attack on tourists last week. India describes that massacre, in which gunmen killed 26 people, most of them Indian tourists, as a terror attack, and accuses Pakistan of backing it. Pakistan denies that charge. We're hearing Elon Musk's XAI Holdings is in talks to raise around $20 billion in funding for its AI startup and social media business. Sources say this deal would value the company at over $120 billion and could be used to pay down debt from Musk's conversion of Twitter into a private company. The funding expected to take place over the next few months, according to sources. President Trump suggesting another delay to his higher reciprocal tariffs is unlikely, raising pressure on nations to negotiate trade deals. Trump also telling reporters he won't drop tariffs on China unless Beijing offers something substantial in return, and says he believes financial markets are adjusting to his tariff policy. The Trump administration has drafted a framework, meantime, from the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative in continued trade talks with other nations. A South Korean delegation did hold talks earlier this week with the Trump administration, Trump told reporters yesterday. An agreement with Japan, meantime, is very close. Citadel founder Ken Griffin, meantime, extending his criticism of the Trump administration trade policies, saying tariffs won't bring back U.S. manufacturing jobs. Griffin speaking at Stanford University's Graduate School of Business. And that's news when you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Denise Pellegrini, and this is Bloomberg.